Peace, peace, peace. Abarigani, Islam, Salam, Hetepu, Gino Lako Ninani, Chief Noble Bandele, El-Amin, back again for another video. And I know it's been a while. I've been doing some things, but I have returned for another video. And today's video, we will be discussing more about the marriage, religious marriage, and we'll be looking at the religious marriage contract. So before we get into that, please check out my books that I've written. You can find them on Amazon, dealing with nationality, birthrights, dealing with Moorish history, science, and dealing with legal or law, and also dealing with the treaties. I got the treaty book, Moorish Treaties, and the Moorish Treaties book 2, as you can see here. So just check me out. You'll find me and all my other books there. And also, check out our website. It's the indigenousservices.webs.com, but you can check it out there. If you go to products, you will see the various products that we do carry, for all the members and non-members who are looking to change the way they look at birth and having to file different things with the state. Our main thing is talking about the religious responsibility or the religious aspects of creating our own legal documentation for what we call the rites of passage. And so right here, you can find these things here on indigenous-services.webs.com, the one-stop shop for your indigenous Moorish needs. Okay. And so with that being said, I want to check out marriage contract. Okay. And we're going to talk about the marriage contract. We're going to talk about the religious. Now remember, this is a religious ceremony. It is part of your rites of passage. And it is also something that you can do as a religious aspect and not necessarily a civil aspect. And I've done at least three or four videos on marriage. Okay, so this is not the first one. So if you want to learn, I did one on marriage ceremonies, as far as your religious versus your civil. Okay, so we're not talking about civil. We're talking about religious marriages. If you want to learn about the religious and civil, check out one of my other videos, which I might put in the description box. But for this video, we're going to be discussing your religious marriage. Okay, because if you're not trying to go through the state, you're not trying to do a civil marriage. And what can make your religious marriage a binding contract that has to be, it has to be recognized in a sense by the state if need be. But this way is a way to keep basically the state out of your marriage. But because it's a contract, you guys understand what a contract, that the contract is a binding agreement between two or more people. And when you put it in a contract form, you understand that becomes the law. What do I mean? So what I'm saying, like say you have a contract you have a credit card. Your credit card, you're in your credit card contract, 9 times out of 10, it will have a place for arbitration if you have any type of discrepancy, if you have some kind of disagreement with that credit card company, before you can sue, meaning take that credit card company to court, you're going to have to go through arbitration first. Okay. And depending on how the arbitration rules can have a big determination on how you can proceed in courts. So that is all done through contract, because if you sign the contract, you sign and you've agreed to arbitration. So a judge has to recognize the contract, and before he can even have standing in the courtroom, it's gotta have it's gotta go through that contract. Well, it's the same thing for two people who want to unify themselves in front of God, or if it's a religious aspect. Now, being us, this is a marriage contract agreement based on the Moorish temple of New Kemet. Okay, and so it doesn't necessarily reflect all religious, but you can get the picture of how we did it. So this right here would be a religious marriage, a religious affidavit of marriage, but it's also a contractual agreement, and you'll see why. So with a year, you'll say, the husband and wife being of age and majority, duly cautioned and informed the following. Okay, they share the same permanent address. Now we got in here the treaty, the Moorish Free Nationals of African descent, who are beneficiaries of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. So it's, we're beneficiaries. It says that we are habitants, and we don't necessarily say that we are citizens, or we're not saying any of that. We're just, the truth is we inhabit in the United States, or in this landmass in the Republic. And this is an agreement that shall be deemed as private, and this covenant shall be international or encumbered. Okay, so you guys can look at all these things and check it out. But it's saying both parties can consent to be married as husband and wife by the temple. You're not relatives. Okay, and there's no facts or circumstances that would prevent the marriage. So that's the beginning of it. But then you get into this. And one more. It says this affidavit is void of any marriage by either party. So, if you're married before this and you haven't dissolved it in some form and fashion, then this would void this contract if you're already married. Okay. But now you don't have to necessarily put this in your contract, but for the sake of how we feel, and most people think, this may be beneficial to make sure that, you don't have a marriage and there won't be any discrepancies or whatnot. Okay. With the state. Okay, so now we get into what we call the authority of the document. And it's saying that in the name of the Creator, okay, the divine blood ancestors, we, your husband's name and your wife's name, hereby before these witnesses, are joined in holy matrimony as Moorish Americans. Okay, the family trust, we, whatever clan you are, and the Creator intended from this day forward until death. So they're making this creed and contract in here, okay? The parties in this marriage shall come from the mighty, almighty Creator, Mother, Father, God, as revealed in the Holy Ancestral Covenant, which is, Holy Ancestral Covenant is our religious book for the temple. Okay, so whatever religious book you have, we have Ancestral Covenant for our ancestral beliefs. And then we have the Holy Ancestral Word shall be the final authority in every decision. The parties, you're going to have the husband is a man of sound mind and character. The wife is the same thing. We both come in the lineage and the preeminence of oracles. We do use oracles, and the oracles could be used and be in a contract. As far as if you have disputes, you may go to the oracles. You guys may have a contract saying that if we do have a dispute, we need to go see what the oracles say. So that means you might have to go to a Babala, or you might have to go to what we have our religious ministers who do oracles in the form of either, cowrie shells, or like Ife, or either even as a form of tarot, or E-Kings, or you might call I-Ching, but E-King, or whatever the form that you're using as an oracle is considered, could be used by your religious people. Okay, so understand that. Okay, so now we're talking about the benefit both parties, whatever religious book, ours is because more Sukkah Quran, but we're not limited to these books. As you can see, we also you might ever heard of the Husia, has relevancy to our particular faith, and other books. So, but like we got mutual sex, you might want to have that in there. What could be considered that mutual society, both being cultural practices. If you have children, we are both members. See, now this is the thing too. You guys want to know, because if you're in the temple, if you are already a member of our temple, okay, or whatever temple or whatever religious you part of, you can put that they become a member with us. We put that you can marry into the temple, because if you're married to a member, particularly if your husband is a member and you come into this, then you also become a member, as not necessarily just an honorary, but you become into it by marriage. Okay. So rearing of children, we have that in there. Even if you guys both have children from different people, and you're bringing your family together, the contract, you can put that in the contract that you're bringing the people together. It also can create a status, because you can say that we share, like we say, we share custodial, residential parent, and legal custody through marriage. See, so you can create that contract and put those things in there to allow yourself to create your own law, if you will. The contract allows you to create your own law, so you don't have to necessarily abide by the state law. It's not the original standard now, because you're saying, well, hey, we both contracted to do this. Okay. You both mutually support, even when it comes to finance, because you want to make sure, you want to be fair in that as well. It's basically that, because we look at it as the husband shall be the provider, and work primarily, he be the one that come out the house. Now, whatever you want to do, it don't have to be this way. If you guys have a contract where you're saying that both of you mutually do the same thing, then so be it. Okay. So whatever you guys do, okay. So now the following is this: there are certain laws or violations that you might have in the contract. So you put in there adultery, based on your religious thing, abandonment. Okay, abandonment shall be. So, and these things are defined. You see what I'm saying? So this is what we do. Okay, when you join the temple. But this is also just knowledge for you to understand if you're going to create a marriage contract. Okay, it's important to create the marriage contract, because, as you can see, you can put these stipulations in there on your own. Okay, they talk about assault of children. If you do assault to them, criminal behavior, you can have it where you guys can't intentionally, and I see how this is worded. Criminal shall be defined as one party willful and ongoing activities in violation of the law. Listen, that hasn't been agreed by both parties. Such would be such as would subject that party or household to criminal sanctions and incarceration. So they're saying, like, this is a stipulation. Like, if you do something that's criminal, that is not been agreed by both parties, you do this, outside of your wife, like your husband's out here selling stuff, and then his wife don't know, or his wife hasn't agreed to it, then that could be a violation or grounds for termination of the marriage, or dissolution of it. Okay. Dangerous behavior. If you're putting the family in danger, that could be, that's in the contract. So it allows you to say, like, hey, it allows you to have something to use. Okay. And, defining ejection. So if person is ejected, ejection shall be defined as one party's ejection of the other party. Ejection is the removal of the other person from the marital home. Okay. So these terms of, we put in there, ejection need not be by force to be prohibited by this agreement. It could be even if we got habitual drunkenness or drug abuse. So you put that in the contract. This is like a prenup with Even it's almost like a prenup. People got a bad perception of a prenup, but a prenup is just it's just basically laying down rules and regulations on how the money is, and that's what most people get caught up on. But really, just having a guideline, because as God, men and women, as what you guys want to call sovereign, if you're sovereign, then you govern yourself. So that means that you can create your own rules and regulations and contract. That's what the United States said. You have the right to contract. So you guys can contract your own marriage however you want it to be. It could be like this is, it's kind of custom in a sense. So if you guys so all that is, if you guys violate, these are the violations, okay? But then you got to have remedy. So to appeal. So the first appeal, when one party believes the other party has violated some of the prohibitions above, shall be in accordance with our temple bylaws. That is, the offended party shall make a matter to the accused party. So it gives you remedy, like, okay, your first appeal or first offense, you guys have a certain application that you have to do. It doesn't necessarily mean automatic, okay, we're going to get divorced, but it says right here, if no resolution results from the first appeal, may demand physical separation from the accused party. Okay. So it gives you an opportunity to resolve in the appeal. And if it doesn't, then you got the right to divorce. If no resolution results from the first appeal, the offended party shall take the matter to the accused party with 2 or 3 impartial witnesses. Members of either party family are not impartial. Neither are friends of either both parties. So you guys find accused party or 2 or 3 impartial witnesses. You find 2 or 3 people who are impartial to the situation. If no resolution results, the offended party shall call the temporal arbitration to the judge the matter. So, like, once you've tried to deal with it from your home and from your community, then that's when, the temple, you can use the arbitration of the temple. So we'll bring in, the elders or the different people from the community to judge it. Okay? And this goes through whatever you wanted to do. You see? But as the temple, we got our regulations. The proceedings of the panel shall be recorded. So so like I'm saying, like, all this is precautionary contractual agreements so that there's some kind of provision. Okay, all decisions are made by New Kente. The remedy, separation, talks about if you got separate, that there may be monetary compensation. All this. Okay, separation shall be defined as the leaving of or removal of one party at the demand of the other party based on these allegations or violations of the contractual prohibitions above. It says where physical separation is initiated, the accused party shall leave the dwelling, especially where the children are part of the household. Upon separation, all financial support customarily made by the accused party shall continue. Okay, so that's what we did. Now, like I said, you guys have whatever agreements you guys come up with. This is the template, if you will. Okay, so the separation demanded unless otherwise agreed to deliver shall last no longer than 90 days. So you get all this going on. Okay, so I'm just saying, like, it gets heavy. Divorce shall be defined as the dissolution of the marriage. Okay, so it gives you definition of that. It gives you, so that it goes all the way into the witness abuse. If the temple panel determines by clear and convincing evidence that a party has been untruthful or has induced a witness to be untruthful in the meeting. So if the temple panel deems that the party has repeatedly engaged in the process without just cause, that party shall be deemed guilty of abandonment. For purpose of this paragraph, repeatedly shall be no fewer than 3 times. So we go into it. And basically, what happens is once there has been an agreement of who's done what, it's going to be recorded. You can take that to court if you need to go to court and get the backing money. You know what I mean? If you want to, after you've been through basically this arbitration, you see, and that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes, like an arbitration will be the remedy, but sometimes it's not. Let's just say you do arbitration and you don't get the result, or you do get the result, but you can't get it enforced. Okay. Then it still gives you the ability to take it to the courts without having to go into the state. See, when you go to the state has that control over the marriage, but at least you have control over how you want to move. But it does still allow you remedy. Okay. So then they say we take on the names, whatever the husband and wife names are going to be in the community or whatnot. Okay. Now this right here, like we said, we have this information right here for the whoever's marrying husband and wife, especially particularly if you're a member. But what happens is with this information being this a contract and an affidavit, we've got your information. So what we do is you can, with the what we call the marriage packet, if you will, the Morris Temple's marriage package. It includes, these things. It includes your contract and your affidavit. Also, you get a certificate, but you also get IDs to go with it. Because another thing is, once you do it this way and you're doing it religious versus civil, sometimes getting these documents recognized by government agencies can be, sometimes you need extra information or documentation to present with those documents since it's religious and it's not civil. So having a temple ID, both you guys as marriage, is part of the package as far as to help you to cement your identification as marriage. So you get the IDs that you can get along with that, and it'll be based off of your marriage certificate because you're giving your information and then you're going to have it notarized. So it's a sworn affidavit and it's been notarized as your form of identification as well. Okay. So you see, and if you notice, we do this on a lot of documents and the people don't understand this, you can learn this as well. If you notice that this is for the husband, the wife will sign, and then they have the witness. You get the witnesses for your signature, and then you have a notary signing. But now check out this at the bottom, because basically after you've gotten this notarized, then you typically have a marriage ceremony by the minister. So what happens is with that minister, once he signs off on it, he'll sign off here and date it and have your seal on there. Okay. And that's after you got it notarized. So with notaries, they can only notarize what's above them. They cannot do anything that's after their notary, that's below their notary. They have no jurisdiction over that. So that's why you get it signed, and then after it's been notarized, you get a signature from the minister that does the rites, or you know what I'm saying, does this rites ceremony. So that is basically all of it for your contract. So, like I said before, the importance is creating your own laws and your own guide and boundaries for your marriage, where you guys are not having to be subject to the state. Not saying that the state is bad per se. I mean, like what the state tries to do is because you are considered a minor in their eyes, you're not able to govern yourself. They take it into consideration for you. So they tell you, yes, go get a marriage license, meaning that I allowed you to get married. Okay. But as you learn and as you look into other videos, you don't have to get married civilly to be married. You can also be married religiously. But I think what happens with a lot of people is they get married. Let's say you get married like a common law. Okay, let's just say common law marriage, which is what we also discussed. But with common law marriage, you still need the contract. So even if you don't get married religiously per se, you get a common law marriage, which is kind of what we do as both, which is kind of crazy to some people. But we got a religious common law marriage, okay, that we contract. You got documentation. You don't want to do a common law marriage and not have any accurate or precise documentation on the marriage, because you'll be like DMX. You'll be like DMX wife, a wife in common law, but she had no documentation. So so when he dies or when they die, you have no rights to anything they have, because especially if they don't leave a will. Let's say they don't leave a will. Your family's gonna say, well, you're not her wife. You don't really have no document. You can't get nothing. But if you have this document that we just looked over, okay, and it's been notarized, and like we do, we'll file it. So it'll be filed on a on a level of registering it in some form. You'll always have access to copies of it, but you'll be able to show that you do have a legal document that actually defines your marriage and actually shows. So you'll have something to bring to court. If you need to take it to probate court, you still have something for it. You won't show up empty-handed saying we was married and we got pictures, or we both had a wedding band. No, you have an actual religious contract, and it's binding, and they have to acknowledge that. Okay, so if there's anyone who is trying to get a religious marriage shall make contact. They can make contact. I had the number on here, or and I have my information show up on here. So please feel free to give a call and ask questions, or if you are looking to actually get married religiously, please feel free to make a call. So I hope that this is informative, and I'm going to start trying to get back and get more videos. We'll look at maybe possibly video on what you need to do when you have a child, which is something like a contract agreement that you might have if you have a birth in a birthing in a hospital, because sometimes it can be difficult in the hospital if you're trying to not have a birth certificate. So there are some things that we can do for that as well. But that's another video. So until then, peace and love. Tuta